Good evening, parents and everyone joining us for today's MOE Facebook Live session, Ask Me Anything About. My name is Saravanan from the Comms and Engagement Group, and I'll be the moderator for today's session, which is on guiding your child through the post-secondary pathway. We hope that today's session actually will give our parents a better understanding of the different pathways, post-secondary pathways, as well as the admission exercise, but more importantly, gain some tips and perspectives on how you can guide your child through making a choice on the post-secondary pathway. To help us on that, actually today we have a rich panel. We have education and career guidance counselor, a parent who has brought his two daughters who have taken different pathways for their post-secondary education. Before I invite our panelists to introduce themselves, just some ground rules for the session. Let's stay on topic so that we can focus on the topic at hand and what parents are concerned with. And let's be respectful in our comments and asking of questions. Without further ado, let me invite our panelists to introduce themselves. Ms. Wang Pheck Hoon, who's the Education and Career Guidance Counselor. Ms. Wang.
Hi everyone, I'm Pheck Hoon. I worked in the business development and marketing areas in the private sector for many years before joining the education industry as a poly lecturer. So having taught in the poly for more than a decade, I've seen many students who are unmotivated, because they have not given it much thoughts when they were choosing their courses. So I thought it's so important as an ECG counselor, that we really need to guide and counsel our students, so as to explore the courses that can better tap on their strengths, on their skills, and also to share with parents the many multiple education and career opportunities and pathways that are now available, which was not available during our time.
Thank you, Pheck Hoon. Nick, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nick Pan here. I work in the advertising industry, and I have three daughters. Two of them are here, a 20-year-old, a 18-year-old, and another 12-year-old at home, most likely not studying for PSLE. So,
Thank you, Nick.
Hello, I'm Cleo. I'm from accounting in IT East, and I'm 18 this year.
Hello, my name is Clié and I'm 20 this year. I'm currently pursuing a diploma in early childhood development and education in Ngee Ann Polytechnic.
Thank you, panelists. I think they will help share their perspectives along the way when you raise questions. But just like what Pheck Hoon has mentioned, I think the post-secondary pathways has evolved over time quite a bit, and it's important for us to understand or get a brief overview of what these pathways are and how do parents support their kids in making that decision. So I'm going to hand the time over just for a quick overview on the pathways as well as how you can support your children. Over to Pheck Hoon.
Okay. So in guiding our children, right, I think it's good to start by engaging our children in conversations, okay, to find out what are their strengths, what are their interests, what are their skills. We can ask them, is there an area that you're very passionate about? Or is there an area that you really would like to contribute in? So when our children know what are their strengths, their skills, and their interests, it's so much easier to decide on the course of the subjects that they want to pursue after their secondary school. So the next question that parents can explore with their children could be, how do they learn best? Okay, is it a hands-on approach or is it more an academic environment? So if the hands-on approach to learning suits them better, then they might want to consider going to the poly or ITE or one of the arts institutions, okay, if they have a passion in arts. But if your child prefers a more academic approach, then they can consider Junior College JC or Millennia Institute. This could be more suitable for them. Okay, so these days there are so many post-secondary pathways, right? Like what you can see on the screen. And I think what's so good is that the pathways are porous. right? So I've seen students, who have gone, who took a course in ITE, the course that they like, the course that they can do well in, and they excel in the course. And after that, move on to poly and subsequently sometimes to uni as well. And I've also seen students who started off taking a course in JC, and midway through they decided that, hey, maybe a hands-on approach will suit me better, and they switch over, right? So the question on our parents' mind tonight should not be which pathway is the best, right? But rather, which pathway is the most suitable for my child, okay, based on his strength, based on his interests, and what are his aspirations, okay? So what we can do is we can start the process of exploration by having this regular and genuine conversations, with your children, find out what are his aspirations. Okay, so we have come up with this safe guideline, when you're talking to your teenagers. Okay, so safe meaning that first S for support. Okay, so seek to understand that your teenager has their own unique strengths. They have their skills, unique skills and interests that they might have. And in this stage of their journey, they are discovering how they can use this strength, to contribute to the community. So be there for your teenager, okay, and speak to them with an open mind. Believe in them. And when you have belief in them, they will really grow in confidence. Okay, believe that their abilities can grow through hard work and dedication. Okay, so do remember to assure your teenager that regardless of how they do, you can see that there are so many options available. They can explore the many different options that can eventually lead them to what they want. Okay, so next is affirm. So let our teen know that you really appreciate their efforts to find out more about post-secondary options. Okay, so encourage them, affirm them that, hey, you're doing a good job. Okay, what's next is that F is familiarize. Okay, so find out for ourselves, because things have changed so much. So find out about currently what are the post-secondary options that are available. Like what the chart that you see earlier, there's so many different options. And then have this conversation with your child and make the informed decisions together. Okay, discuss. When discussing, do stay open to the different education and career pathways that are available, and also be flexible. When you discuss these pathways with your child. Okay, finally, is to empathize. Okay, so recognize that your teenager may be facing a lot of pressure these days. Okay, yeah, like the teens here, right? There's academic pressure, there's social pressure, there's peer pressure. Okay, so what you can do is to support them by getting them to reach out, to you if they are anxious or they just need to share, how they feel with you. Assure them that you are there for them, even as they go through this decision-making process. And I think what's also important is to manage our own expectation of our teenager. So be careful not to project our expectation on our children. Okay? Encourage them to speak to like-minded friends so that they can form a social support circle. Okay, there are many different pathways, as what you can see earlier, right? And MOE is continually working to enhance these pathways. Okay, so most recently, our second Minister for Education, Dr. Maliki Osman, led this review on opportunities and pathways in applied education. So the review studied how MOE can better support the diverse needs and aspirations of students and graduates from polys and ITEs, while ensuring that they are equipped with the relevant skills, not only to remain resilient, but also to thrive in this future economy. So I will just highlight a few of the changes, for you here. Okay, first and foremost, there's ITE, existing NITEC and higher NITEC programs will be streamlined into a 3-year program instead of the 4 years, and that will lead your child to a higher NITEC certification. Also, polys will explore industry exposure, for example, work shadowing, some short job stints, for the poly students beyond their 3rd-year internship, okay? And ITE also, what they'll do is they'll include 2 linked industry attachment as part of enhanced curricular structure. So all this aims to prepare our students to be work ready. On top of that, we hope to provide additional flexibility in the poly curriculum. So what happens is that selected students can explore a more flexible curriculum to spread out their learning beyond 3 years. Okay, so this more flexible curriculum will provide our students with a more holistic experience in school. So our students can have more opportunities to stretch themselves further.
Okay, thanks, Vicky, for sharing. I think it's a lot of information. I think this is just to give a brief overview. There are a lot of resources. You can find out more about the pathways and the admission exercise. And if you find it hard to find information, always talk to your child, your teenager. They will be better tuning than you in understanding those pathways. And it's about familiarizing the F that she mentioned in the SAFE framework. And that will help better appreciate the different pathways before you make the choice. I think now is a good time to look at the questions coming in. I know parents will have a lot of questions for us and the panelists. We haven't heard from Nick and his 2 daughters as well. We will call upon them to share their perspective in a while. But one of the first questions that's coming in is, how do I know what are the options my son can take? How do I decide a pathway? This is from a parent, Mandy. So maybe I can channel this to Pheck Hoon. You want to address this?
Okay, how to know what are the options? Like what we said, there are so many options available. One good resource is to check out My Skills Future portal. There are really quite a lot of resources on pathways, the different courses, the different institutions, even the world of work. Sometimes you need to think about what you want to do, and then you know the courses, and then you know the pathways. Okay, so on top of that, I think I'll be talking a lot about, firstly, before you know the pathway, you need to find out more about yourselves. What do you like, what do you not like, what are your interests, and so on, before you can think of what courses to take and whether is it available in the poly, in the JC, and ITE. And when talking about pathways, I think what another thing that's very important is your learning style. What kind of learning style do you prefer? Like what I said earlier, is it more a hands-on approach? Is it more a theoretical, academic, conceptual kind of approach? What's the learning environment that you like? And then from there, the discussion will lead you to narrow down what are your options and what are the pathways that you would like to further explore.
Thanks, Pheck Hoon. Keep your questions coming in. I think we have the panel ready to answer your questions, so do keep it coming. We have another question. My child is good at math, but it's not good at science. What education pathway would you recommend? Instead of channeling these to Pheck Hoon, I'm going to reach out to Nick, because it's a question of how do you know what your child is good at, where his talents are, strengths are. And also Cleo and he can also share. How did you discover what you're good at? Was it based on an academic subject or different interests? And Nick, how did you find that out?
Yeah, I think maybe based on this question from the comments, right? If someone is good at math and not good at science now, that sounds actually a bit like me when I was younger. I did quite well with my math, but I really did badly for my science. But looking forward at my career right now, I think there are a lot of transferable skills that I have picked up from math. And, science at my later years, it's very interesting and very exciting. There are, I think, a lot of things in the world that I would like to find out even more when I'm an adult. So I think education pathway perspective, I really like what Pheck Hoon mentioned. It's like understand what your child is interested in. So maybe as parents, what we can do is to really understand what are the job availability out there, different kind of careers, different kind of industries, and really expose our children to these different industries. So maybe if someone is good at math, maybe he's good at logical thinking, maybe into systems, into IT, or maybe into accounting or the likes, But that doesn't mean that, in the future will have nothing to do with science, right? Because they could be doing IT in a science lab, for example, right? It's always there. So I think industry and occupation are two different things. So I think what's important is really to have that conversation to understand what their interest is, not just the next step, which is choosing a pathway, but really further like into their career and what kind of problems they would like to solve for the world in the future, for example.
Thanks, Nick. Now I'm going to channel you to your two daughters. So how was your journey of discovering what you're good at, and how do you make a choice? How did you choose your particular pathway when you came to post-secondary? So let's start with Cleo.
Okay. So for me, right, it wasn't like a sudden choice because I kind of already had in mind what I wanted, like since like quite long. Like ever since young, I've always wanted to be like a artist or illustrator, right? But also like came into like the logical thinking of like money. So I was like thinking like, am I gonna earn from this or what? So like how I always thought, right? I was always very on off of my art career. But then now I'm in like ITE in accounting, right? So like after like having more experience with like somewhat office jobs, right? I realized that like yes, I am more on to my career, like my choice of poly, which is in design course. So like for me it wasn't a fast process, it was like very long, and it took me like my time in ITE to realize what I actually really wanted, which was not much office job, but more of something that can let me be more creative. Yeah.
Thanks. How about Cleo?
So I think for me, I was the opposite of Cleo, where I knew exactly what I wanted before I took my O levels. So I always wanted to be an early childhood educator, and I know that I have to get a diploma in early childhood. So when I was taking my N levels, I was thinking about the three different the pathways that I could take to get me to that stage. So there was the DPP option, the PFP option, as well as the Sec 5 route. So after doing a lot of research on all three options, I realized that if I took the DPP route, I wouldn't be able to get to where I wanted to be, as for early childhood is not available for DPP. So I'm not sure whether now it has changed, but during when I was applying, it was not available. So I did not opt for DPP. So that closed one down, like process of elimination, So then after that, I was kind of thinking that if I could get into PFP and get the score needed, okay, but that did not happen. So I opted for Sec 5, and after I entered Sec 5, I then looked at my pathways again, and I did a lot more research to clarify what was the next step I needed to take, what was the homework that I need to do, what did I need to get ready to apply from where, So I opted for the EAE route and went to apply to Poly to get to the course that I wanted to go. So it took 1 year to make my choice happen, but it happened. So yay!
Thanks, Cleo. I think this is tied to the next question we are looking at.
Can I
as
jump
well.
in for the
Sure.
Yeah. So I was saying that I think it's good that these students started off with knowing what is their strength,
Yes.
like good in math, what is not so good areas, science. And I have students like that, So it's a journey, you start off with finding out what are your interest areas, but after that, there are a lot of other areas that we can explore. So one of the questions that I share with my students is, with this talent in math, which area would you like to contribute in? And he thought for a while and said, yeah, I really want to help people fulfill their potential, for example. Yeah. And then we went on to say, okay, what kind of careers would help people to fulfill their potential? Teachers, psychologists, and so on and so forth. And from there, he broadens up and then start thinking like, okay, yeah, these are some possible areas that
I think that that's a useful point. It's not just to accept what they say is their strength at the face value. Dissect it a bit more. Ask questions. Why exactly you're interested in that? You can discover a lot more.
And there are a lot of areas that you can find.
Yes.
Besides this subjects is one area.
Yes.
It's a good starting point. But to explore further.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's a useful insight. I think we have another one quite related, and I think that's tied to the point that Clié shared as well. What if my son, age 15, is still unsure of his passion and doesn't have a specific strength? He's average academically, and this is from Sarah. I think calling it a passion is quite laden. It's a loaded term, right? And his passion requires a lot of investing your time, knowing what you want, and understanding your strength and what your talents are. Is not a very linear thing. Like how Cleo and Cleo have shared, through that journey, they need to unpack for themselves what are they interested in, try different means, explore, and then land at something, and still continue exploring, because there could be another journey thereafter for them. So I think the question here is, if they are unsure, if my kid is still unsure where they want to be, how do we advise them? What sort of guidance can we provide? So maybe I can here work as an ECG counselor as well as a parent.
Okay, it could be a little bit similar.
Yeah, sure.
One is, I think 15 is still quite young, and different people have different age whereby they realize or decide, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. But even after you decide, it's still a journey. You could change and things change and so on. Yeah, so I think one good area to start is by trying a lot of different things. The more things you try, then you can see like, hey, the things that you're naturally drawn to, the things that excites you, give you a sparkle in the eye. Yeah, you could explore a bit further deeper and say, hey, is this something that I would like to go to explore my career and things like that. So I wanted to share this example of Steve Jobs. That he shared that he did a course in calligraphy during his college, and this he shared later that this was an inspiration for his beautiful typology in Apple technology. And when he shared with a commencement ceremony, that he didn't see at that point in time, but looking back, then he could connect the dots. The different experiences led him to where he is now. So what my advice to students, with 15 years old, that if you don't know what you are passionate in, you don't know what you like, start really by exploring, trying out different things, and from there it's a good start. What am I good at, what am I interested in? Yeah.
I think 15-year-old, it's very young. I have colleagues, I won't say colleagues, friends, who are like 35 years old and economically quite average as well. They have no idea what's their passion and interest as well. So I think I totally agree with Jun's point about the connecting the dots thing. And you can only connect the dots if they are at first dots. If there are no dots, there's nothing to connect, right? So as parents, I think we should just expose them to many different things. Like this one, Cleo, right? She has too many interests. I also don't know which one to support, but when she's interested in something, I try to give her the environment, give her the resources, give her the opportunity to see a little bit further on what she's interested in. So I think schools share with us the syllabus and the content, but I think as parents, we need to expose them to the rest of the world. Things like what's happening in culture, social media, current affairs, everything. I think the more exposure, the better. Then we get the dots, then we can connect the dots.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think as when I was 15 years old, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. To a certain degree, that still holds for me.
I wanted to play catching.
But at that age, it's about clearing the next stage. It's finish your O level and so on. But I wanted to hear youth's perspective. Whether it's your own experience or your friends who are still not clear what they want to do, what they want to be, and what sort of kind of exploration do they embark on to discover themselves, or just go with the flow and see where life brings you?
Okay, I think I can take this one first. So I think I definitely agree with what Miss Wang and my dad has said and shared, that you definitely do have to expose yourself to lots of different interests. I mean, I'm 20, I'm going to be 20 this year, and a lot of my friends are now figuring out, oh, maybe instead of this, I want to do this, and really refining their pathways and their plans for life because of the courses that we chose for poly. That experience itself has shifted some of the things and the thoughts that we have in how we want to contribute to society in the future. I can share, for example, for myself, I went into Polytechnic in the early childhood diploma, thinking that okay, I'm going to come out as a preschool teacher, yay! But I think when I was going through my diploma, I realized that hey, there's an impact that I can make that is bigger than this. So for my future plans, I do plan to pursue a degree in psychology and sociology, so that I feel that this step will help me get to my next step. That will maybe even after I get those two degrees, maybe I suddenly want to change. And so it's really a learning process that doesn't really stop at O levels. It's definitely stops when you say bye-bye. Yeah, it is forever. So I think it's just really exploring different things, and your interests definitely change with time. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, for me, right, I have some friends like we're gonna apply for EAE soon, like in the next month, in a few weeks, and they still have no idea what they want. So like because I've had a lot of exposure from my parents and like a lot of knowledge, right? I try and help them because they have I feel like part-time jobs are also quite good. You can see if you like being like the first liner or like the back person. Yeah, like do you like to interact with customers more, or do you like to be in the background? So like I feel like part-time jobs are also very good because my friends, they have taken up part-time jobs. So like from what I've heard them say about their jobs, right? I've also like told them like what I think they will be good at, like from like what they tell me or in their interests and like their job experience. So I like just kind of tell them here and there like what I think is good for them. Because like not like I know everything lah. So like I just tell them, I aim them in the direction. Like also because right, EAE is also in 1 month, and some of them have nothing for their portfolio. So that one I just told them to like do more research, so that at least like although you have nothing to like show, at least you can show that you're interested to learn and do this course well. So yeah, so just expose yourself to a lot of things.
I think,
We need
I think
counselors.
yeah, I think they can play that well. I think Cleo made a very, very important point, I think, which is we talked about having conversation with your kids, but it's more than that. It's observing them, but also talking to your kids' friends, because they might notice things that you don't notice. And even teachers in the school. I mean, for me, when I spoke to my boys' friends, I learned things about my boy that I didn't realize myself, and I think that's important. Not just see it from your perspective, because maybe as parent you have certain blinders,
Yeah.
but when you talk to others, they have seen something in your kid, and that is an observation, that is a useful insight for you. So thanks for that point. I wanted to make that, but you segued it nicely. We have a couple of other questions. This is from Gail. What is your advice if the student is not a fast learner? I don't know what fast learner means. The O-level result is not fantastic, but can still go to JC. Students' wish is to go JC. Is JC or Poly suitable for him? And another related question, if the child is still unsure, will going to JC be better since Poly courses are more focused upon entry? But yet again, it's very competitive in JC for one to get into uni. What will you suggest? The you refers to Pheck Hoon, I guess, in terms of advice on ECG.
Yeah. Okay. So I think one of the things that ECG counselors don't do is that we don't make the decision for you. Okay. So we'll go through the factors of consideration. To think through what's the difference between JC versus Poly. Do you like the theoretical, the academic approach, or a lot of projects, hands-on discussion and things like that, internship, collaboration with the industry. Does all this suits you better? Okay, the other thing to think about is what kind of environment. JC is a lot more structured. Poly has you don't have a fixed timetable and things like that. Which environment do you prefer? Okay, so it's the student knowing all the different factors of consideration. They will make a decision for themselves. And I've seen students like what this case scenario is that O-level results may not be fantastic, but want to go to JC and they want to go to JC themselves. Nobody is forcing them. And you see their motivation is there. They work hard and they could still do well and excel and is the choice that, but what's important is really thinking through, exploring, researching, so that you go in knowing how is it like, and you know that, hey, this is what I want. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a bit about trying to also understand what is their learning style.
Yes.
And which pathway would
Be
sort
more
of
suitable.
more suitable for them.
Yeah.
It's not seeing it as a very institution specific, right? JC and then UD, but actually which learning style suits you best, which learning environment is better for you. I know, during my time, people choose Poly because you need to wear uniform, right? There are different considerations. But there are also those who felt that the hands-on experience in Poly is better for me. I had a friend in JC who, after first year, got his clarity. He said, okay, JC education is not for me. He then left for Poly education. Now he's VP somewhere. So he had that clarity, but he had to go through the experience to find out what suits him and then be able to make that adjustment. I think that's important.
I have a student who said that, Poly, he doesn't have the discipline to study, to go to school if there's no, teachers running after you and things like that.
Yeah.
And he thinks that JC would be more suitable because it's a lot more structure and then he can try to become a parent. So these are the things that they should do.
Okay. So it's to have that conversation to understand, or you might already know what is your child's learning style and advise your child based on that rather than saying that take JC and this particular pathway. But if they are clear and they want to choose a pathway, then see how that would motivate them to work hard on that vision, because that is also another value. It's not about that academic results, but being able to work for something you want, which will both serve them well even beyond their studies, right? Anything to add, Nick?
If my child say that they would like to go to JC, then then go. I won't do extra research for them, honestly, because if they sort of figured it out, they have discussed their friends with teachers. I think I want to support their decision more than try to change the decision or overthink the decision, because after all, that few years in their life, I think it's good for them to bounce around, figure things out themselves, and I think that's going to be good as a lifelong skill as well. And I feel that as a parent, sometimes if we guide them too much, right, ends up they keep on relying and waiting for us for instructions, and that's not going to help them moving forward.
At times you need to trust them.
Yeah.
Let them discover themselves.
Like Clié, she's very well planned. She knew exactly step. She tell me this is the thing. When am I going to do this? Get house, get married, or the plan is amazing. But this one figured out along the way.
Yes.
So I think when that time when the booklet come with a lot of the options, we actually opened it up. We looked through all the options and we had the discussion. Then I spent more time with her to select the school, to say like if you want to end up at, let's say, communication design at Temasek Poly or business, things like that, then this is the route you could possibly take. That's how we see things connecting. And it sort of makes sense. So she applied accordingly. So I think it depends on the child. If they are well planned, go for it. If not, then support them a bit more.
Yeah, I think that is a wonderful example of how you calibrate your parental support, understanding your child. We have a couple of other questions coming in, and this is on Poly Foundation Programme and DPP, which is Direct Poly Programme. My child's secondary school is really focused on motivating the NA level to take on PFP and DPP. This leads lesser students to carry on to Sec 5 for O levels. In our time, the O level is deemed as a very important step for after secondary school. How is this different now? My concern is if they do not take O level and they did not do well in PFP or DPP, what can they do or how can they proceed from there? This is from Celia, and maybe Pheck Hoon you can answer, and then I think both of you all can share because you all also consider those pathways, right? Yeah.
Okay. I think NA progression has a lot of choices. Therein lies the decision, right? There's PFP, there's DPP, there's Sec 5, there's 9 courses. Okay, so I think first and foremost, it's to have plan A, plan B, plan C. Because a lot of students, Clié and Cleo can share. Firstly, they aim to go PFP, but and if they don't get the PFP, then they are lost. It's like, oh, I didn't think about what's next. So do discuss with your child. What's your plan A? What's your plan B? What's your plan C? So the question is, if they do not take O level because PFP is direct and do not need O level. From the poly perspective, most of my poly colleagues say that PFP students generally do very well, very, very well. Okay, so that's a consideration for you. Second thing to take note of is that unis now are more moving towards aptitude-based admission, which means that the admission process is now a lot more holistic. They look at their aptitude. They go through via interviews and aptitude tests, and less on academic grades, and they don't have to look at their O levels via this ABA and so on. So don't have to worry about the O level things. It's not really a cause of concern.
Yeah, thanks, Pheck Hoon. I think the larger point is it's quite porous right now, the different pathways. So there are different ways you can explore. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. It's really about what your child wants and their learning pace and style, which pathway leads them to the next step that they want to aim towards. Let's hear from Clio and Cleo. How was your experience in making those choices with the two pathways?
Okay, so we both were from the NA level. I decided to go for Sec 5, and I totally understand your child's secondary school being more focused on PFP and DPP, because I definitely got that talk in my secondary school as well, a lot, and for good reason, because a lot of teachers and the principal warn your students that Sec 5 is really a difficult year that you have to go through, and it is a high stress year that you have to go through, and you have to be ready to take on this year. And I always get this, when I started my Sec 5 year, every lesson for the first 5 minutes would start off with a lecture of how Sec 5 was so difficult, how Sec 5 was so tiring, how you got to really push on. So I think schools really do understand how difficult Sec 5 is, because Sec 5 is not just learning a few more topics, not a few more subjects. It is relearning the way you answer a question, relearning the way you understand how the question is being asked. It's relearning everything plus more subjects and more things. So I think that Sec 5 is definitely a very high stress year. the reason why I opted for Sec 5 was because DPP and PFP could not offer me the option that I wanted, which was early child education. I'm not sure about the PFP options, the courses options that are available right now, but even for PFP, early childhood was not in sight. And I think Ms. Wang said that PFP students generally do very well. Unfortunately, all my PFP friends have said that they feel a bit let down by the PFP, as they felt that, oh, they're going to dive right into the course that they really want to learn. Instead, it's really a foundation program where they study English, maths, science, and at just a tertiary level. So that way, I think it helps definitely with the transition from secondary school to poly, where you don't just dive in straight to the courses and you just learn a little bit, try to get your levels up a little bit. Yeah, so some of my friends have definitely said that they wish they would go to Sec 5 and gotten their O-levels and maybe gone straight into their course that way. That way they didn't lose interest in their course in the first place. So I think where your child wants to go would have to depend on how ready he is to take on the different pathway, because different pathway has different stress.
For me, right, I took the DPP course, and honestly, I am very thankful that I did. It's been very on and off whether I've like been happy that I took DPP or like sad that I didn't take Sec 5. But for me, right, Sec 5 was like, no, I am too lazy to study everything again. And like after having DPP, I feel like also my foundation has become a lot stronger, because like it's like really a transition from secondary school to poly, but very supportive. For me, right, I have a lot of lecturers and they will actually talk to you one-on-one and help you with your work, instead of like poly lecturers where they are just like, oh, here you go, all the best. Like for me, right, my teachers really like, they go through our work like every time. They will see our whole report, even if it has 17,000 words. She will go through everything multiple times to tell us what we can improve on and everything. So it's like for in ITE, for me DPP, right, it really has helped me like see like how much better my work can be compared to secondary school level. When it comes to like PowerPoint, Word, or like Excel, everything, I have improved a lot more. Especially like in adding in references, I did not know that was a big thing, but it is. And I learned a lot of new software and websites that I can use to like improve on my work. So like I feel that DPP is very good. If you like it's also good because like there are a few choice courses and course choices. Yeah, there's a few like course choices, right? And it's also like, I don't know, I kind of been viewing DPP as a workshop, just a very long workshop, which is probably not good. But yeah, I've just been viewing it as a very long workshop, and it's been like pretty good for me because like I got to see like what I like from the choices, and also like oh, okay, office job not for me, so like I like using my creativity. So like it also helped me like strengthen on what I want to do in poly. So I feel like DPP is a very good stepping stone in like helping you get better at your work, and also like the environment, because like secondary school and tertiary education is super different. Like not everyone talks to each other anymore. It's just some people. That's about it. It's really a good stepping stone. DPP is great.
Actually, I do want to add on, because a lot of my friends who have gone through DPP and in poly, being a poly student who didn't go through the DPP route and took my O-levels and just went straight into the course, a lot of us poly students really wanted a DPP or IT student in our group, because they knew so much about the course and their foundation was so solid that if you had them in your team, they would really help you with your learning as well. So I think DPP is really a really great option to and ensure that you do well in poly, because a lot of IT students and DPP students do very well in poly because they have such a strong foundation in the subjects. Yeah.
I also want to add. Like because like for Sec 5 O-levels, right, they have EAE, which like helps them like get a head start into getting to their course. DPP also offers the same thing. DPP courses like also allow for EAE, which is very good. Minimum 2 GPA, 2. So it's also like very good for me because honestly, if I didn't have EAE, so yes, DPP is great. You get EAE.
Thank you for hard selling DPP. we didn't rehearse this. I think they are talking from experience, and I think they are also, after experiencing it, saying what has been the benefit of it as well. I think from the parents' comment, I think where the school suggested or recommended to their students is also with the view that they understand where the child's strengths are, interests are, and what might be the best option for them. So it's not to dictate, it's to guide. And it's ultimately the choice of the child, knowing his own learning style. If you're clear about a particular course that you want to take, whether it's poly or ITE, then the pathway would be easier for you, whether you choose DPP or PFP. And if you are going, like what Clié, how she made a decision was very clear. I want to go to this course. I'd rather go O level and then go take that path. And that's the clarity you want, and having that conversation with your kid to get that clarity, I think is important as well. Thanks for sharing. You were hard selling DPP. Good job there. We have a couple of, I think it's more of a comment. I find talking about the pathway of future too early can be an added source of stress and pressure to those who are not sure yet. Where do we get career pathway counselling if we need it? This is from Phoenicia. I think I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But this is where ECG counsellors come in. Right? Yes, very good.
Okay, to the comment about, if you thought about pathway of future too early, I think it's how you approach it. If you're approaching it like, okay, we're just finding out what are your areas of interest, you're very good at this, how do you see yourself making use of this in the future and things like that. It's a casual conversation, it's an affirmation. Actually, it helps the child in, having confidence and having a better sense of, hey, I'm good in this, maybe I can think about an area in this. You don't have to decide there and then, So that's one point. Where can you get career counselling, ECG counselling? I think in the school context, your teachers are equipped with the discussion about the general pathways and things like that. But if you need to have deeper conversations, more exploration, there's an ECG counsellor in every school. So make an appointment with your ECG counsellor and start having this conversation, and the clarity will come. We can have conversations. We have some tools to help you to explore and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So there is support available, whether it's talking to the teacher or ECG counsellor. I think the earlier point that we could make is that don't study as a conversation on where do you want to be, what career you want, what pathway, which I agree can be an added source of stress. It's more of understanding where their interest is, rather than seeing it as a career. That's not the end point in life, right? I mean, Chia just now shared that it's life of learning, right? And that's the way to look at it. But it's along the way when they're making decisions at key milestones, you have to understand them a bit, where their interests and talents are, strengths are, and not to see it as an end point in pursuing a particular career itself. Any thoughts, Nick, you want to share?
I think when parents ask questions like that, I feel that parents want to also answer correctly on what they as parents should be doing. But I think the test is not on us as parents. It's really their journey, and I think we need to let them do a bit of decision making on what path they need to go. And I think if they are talking about pathways, or if we open the conversation about pathways, I think it's always a learning opportunity to really explore different careers, different jobs, different industries, and just have a chat. And if we as parents don't know, we can call our good friend Google. They will tell us all the possible answers, like what is a maritime biologist, or whatever. So I think then it's a partnership, a collaborative activity to go and find out together as well. Like the Clié did something very interesting. We were having prata at Jalan Kayu with some of my neighbors, you know. And then she started asking my friend, "Hey uncle, what did you study last time? I understand you're doing some business now. What is your path?" So, you know, she naturally asked, and it wasn't stressful, or it's just exploring. But if it is like, oh, next week need to decide already, wow, very stressed. You know, so I don't think we should wait till then. Let's have an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, letting them have conversation with your friends on different things. That's a good sharing. Thanks, Nick. We have another question coming in. How is the early admission exercise EAE process like? Any advice for it? Actually, I'm gonna look at Cleo. You will tell the answer, and Pheck Hoon will mark. Because I mean, you're going through the process
Very
right
good,
now.
very good. Okay, so for me, right, yesterday in the morning, I was like, I really should start on my EAE. So I called my ECG counselor. I was like, hi. Help. I was like, where do I start? Because she did come today. She did have a MS meeting with our class, telling us like what we need to do, and like that's about it. Okay, so like for me, what I wanted was like more in depth. Like okay, yeah, we need to write a 600 character thing about like why you want to join the course, and then like a portfolio and an interview like after, right? So I was like, okay, at first I thought 600 words. Okay, so I was like, okay, type, because like I'm a very wordy person when typing. And then but then when I called her yesterday, she was like, oh no, it's 600 characters, so it's like about 150 words. I was like, oh no. Yeah, so like the EAE process is basically you have to send, like I think the application this year is from 9 to 15 June. Then we have to send in our 600 like character thingy about why you want to join the course, and then after like our portfolio and all that. So yeah, that's basically the process. Then once you get accepted, you go for interview and aptitude test, right?
Is that correct?
Yes, very much so. Fast replying colors. I just wanted to add on that EAE or early admission exercise is for those who is clear about what you want, you know, because after the personal statement, after the application and the interviews, and you got the offer, and you accepted it, okay, and there is a period of there's a window whereby you can say, oh, I'm not too sure now. You can still withdraw, but after that, I call it cooling off period, is over, you know, and you didn't withdraw, your place is reserved for you. And let's say during the O levels or the N levels or whatever, you did very well. And you say, oh, I think I want to change my mind, you know. But because you're committed and the place has been reserved for you, you can't be changing. So do explore, be clear about what you want, and then EAE is for you.
Okay. Choose whether it's the right path for you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other point that Cleo shared is talk to the ECG counselor. They can advise you. And she was thinking it's a 600-word essay that she needs to do, but it was more succinct. You need to indicate in 600 characters.
Yes, including punctuations.
We have another set of questions that is sort of comparing between JC and Poly education. This from Dash. Is JC more stressful than Poly? Another question by Elaine. JC prepares the student for university. If the student's grades does not permit them to enter university, what is the next education pathway? It's not like Poly education. After graduation from Poly, the student will be able to secure a job with a diploma, unlike an A-level certificate. So I think is the different pathways, and what does it mean if I take one particular pathway? Pheck Hoon, do you have any guidance or advice on that?
Okay. So the first question about whether JC is more stressful than Poly. I think when I was teaching the Poly, there were students who transferred from the JC over to the Poly, and they told me that I thought Poly is less stressful, but it's not. Okay, so they said it's stressful in a different way. You know, in Poly, there are a lot of projects and continuous assessments and presentations. So there are days and weeks that the students did not sleep because they have to churn their projects. Yeah, and it's cumulative GPA, unlike JC, which is a one-time major exam kind of thing. So stressful in different ways. So again, it goes back to the question, which one is more suitable for you? It's not that one is more stressful or one is less stressful than the other. Yeah.
Then the other is coming out with a diploma versus coming out with an A level. I think the question here is if you have a diploma, you can go into the working world immediately. But where does A levels lead to? Right? I mean, is there any advice, guidance you can provide?
Yeah. So therein lies really have to think through whether you want A levels or Poly. But like what you said, the pathways are a lot more porous these days, and the recent changes is that after JC, after A levels, if you so decide that okay, maybe I will do Poly, if my grades didn't qualify me for university admission, and you can complete your Poly education in a shorter time instead of 3 years. You can finish it off within 2 years or 2.5 years, depending on courses.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that the point here is not to see that as an endpoint necessarily. In fact, I mean, even if you obtain A level cert and it doesn't qualify you for university, you still need to ask the question: what do I want to do? And where is my strength? Again, I think that question can be asked anytime. You might realize that after going through the A level pathway, and then be clear about what you want to do. So it's not like it's a mistake, but it's a learning journey, right? You discover at every juncture, and then you make a choice, and then you gain from everything. I think what Nick shared earlier, that everything that you learn, there's a certain transferability to the next step that you take. So I think those are very, very useful points that we shared. I'm looking whether we got any more questions coming in. Maybe we're running out of time. Let me take one last question that's come in. How can I support my child if they want to go mass comm course? This is from Winnie. Very specific. I don't know whether Pheck Hoon, you have any advice. I mean, how can I support my child? I don't know whether the question is about advising them against it or for it, or if they want to, how do I support them? I'll take it that it's about how you want to support them, because if this question is being asked or shared by the child to the parent, the child is pretty clear what he or she wants to do. And as a parent, I mean, even me as a parent, I'll be fully supportive. And I think then is to your safe framework, right? You support them. You also familiarize yourself with what the mass comm course is about, what it requires, different pathways or different requirements. Be clear about it. And yeah, as a parent, that's how I would support. But I think Nick has gone through the journey, so he might have something specific to share.
I didn't study mass comm as well, but I think it's important to know why the child wants to go to mass comm. I am in advertising, so we have a lot of mass comm graduates that join us, right? A lot of them, young especially, they think like, oh, mass comm can get advertising, can do marketing, can do PR. It's very fun. We can go party, drink, out of office, and many things. So that seems to be the fun thing to do, but then they are sadly mistaken because it's long hours. There's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of clients to manage. So I think as a parent, we need to find out what does mass comm lead us to, what careers, which employers are looking for people with mass comm certification and things like that, and what are who are the famous mass comm people out there, and is that the life that your child is ready to embark on? So I think children will see from their point of view. My friends say it's cool. I hear that it's cool, so it's cool. I want to do it, right? But I think as parents, we can do a little bit more for them, a little bit more homework for them to find out, like, actually, this is the life. Like, I wanted to be a designer when I was young. My dad told me no, because designers earn very little money and have to spend a lot of time. But that's before computer days. So he said he was young, he painted a lot of eggs and he thought he could sell a lot of paintings. But no, it's very hard work. So I said, okay. Then he asked me to do something else. So at least he went through some of his own experience and he shared with me his experience. Then like, okay, sort of makes sense. So I think that now we have no excuse as parents. We've got so many tools and so many resources. We should actually help our kids find out, like, where does this path lead them to? What are the options available after that? And if that's something that they want to embark on.
Thanks, Nick. That's useful to understand why first, right? And what doors it opens up.
Correct.
For them. Okay. Thank you. I know we are past the time, but if I could just seek your indulgence, every parent's indulgence, to listen to us a bit longer. I'm sure you would have found this useful. But I want to end the session by actually inviting all the panelists to give one piece of advice to parents. So as an ECG counselor, as a parent, and quite importantly, as youth, what would you all advise parents? I'm going to start with Pheck Hoon first.
Okay, today's theme is helping our children transit to post-secondary pathways. But what I want to share is to remind, as we journey with our students, with our children, to remind our children that the next step of education pathway is not the end point. That when we,
I think you will speak louder.
okay, when we journey with them, is thinking of how to help our children live meaningful and purposeful life, right? So how to empower them, how to build up their confidence, especially in today's world. It's a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and COVID has shown us that things just change in an instant. So how do we help our children build resilience even as they face setbacks in life, and navigate through the various changes and be able to go through life with this resilience.
Yeah, thanks, Pheck Hoon. Nick?
So, dear parents, I think as a parent myself, it can get quite stressful sometimes. And I think we are pressured by the society, we are pressured by friends as well, pressured by relatives. I think we all want to do the right thing. We want to do the right thing for our children. We want to make sure that we do the right thing for our families and things like that. And sometimes we think right means that there is a certain benchmark that we need to hit, but that benchmark is of the world and of society. But what about our own family, right? So in our family, I think what's important, I think the success measure at the end of the day is when my children, have their children, and then my grandchildren will come back and say, "Oh, Akong, Amma," then we hang out, we enjoy time together, we eat together, and I think that's fairly successful already. So if it is stressing about this journey, that path, this work, this salary, this kind of house, then I think that's a very sad path to take. I'm not saying that it's bad. It's just that I think the focus shouldn't be to prove to other people that my children can also do it and things like that. I think that's absolutely not necessary. So it's easy to say, but I struggle all the time because I have one ITE girl here. My era, right? It's people think that ITE is not so good, but I think we have enough conversations by a lot of people in the government to say things are changing, and you can hear from Cleo's passion, that she's actually enjoying her time studying now, and I think this few years of her education in this tertiary stage, right, is really doing her a lot of good, and I can see a lot of passion and zeal coming out. So when she's 25, I think she'll be super solid.
Thanks, Nick. Cleo, your turn.
Okay. For me, I think that parents should spend time with their children. So you should bring them out more. Then from bringing them out, you can see more of who they are outside. And like when you bring them out, don't just like constantly be with them. Can let them roam around also. Because for me, right, I was only brought out like a lot when I was younger. Then after that, like primary school to secondary school, like the going out was less. So like I kind of just stayed at home and just waited. So I think parents should bring your kids out more. But like for my parents, like they talk to me at home and they see what I do at home. Okay. But like some people they don't do much at home, so you should bring out your kids so they can see what they do outside and like what they like to do, like how they look around the environment, see what they look at and stuff. Like be very observant because like I'm a parent, but I see my friends and I just see like what kind of person they are. I just observe who they are as a person and see like in what way I can help them. Like because I have a lot of different friends, very very different. And like usually some people have like specific kinds of friends. For me, I have variety, and they're all so different. They hate each other, they love each other. They are my friends still. So like I really like understand. Like I see them as a person, and I understand them, and I just see like how, like because different people have different ways of comforting. So when like all my different friends have different ways of comforting, so at least like when I go out with them I can see how they are and then I know how to comfort them. So you should bring them out, just observe them.
Yeah, Cleo is different, when she's with us and when she's with her friends. And that's quite nice. I do see the different side. I mean, it's all her.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay, so I think my last point would be that parents, I know that you are stressed. I know you're very stressed about this decision you're going to make. But I can assure you that we even more stressed than you, okay? And I believe that your child knows that you are very stressed about the decision that they are going to make too. So let's not stress them. And let's work together to help them make this big decision.
Thanks,
Yes.
Clié. I think you've heard from youth, speaking to parents and need for connecting with parents regularly, building that family bonds, and don't stress your kids. They are already going through stress, and they do understand the stress parents are going through as well. And then Nick, of course, shared about how do you define success, and don't take a benchmark that isn't meant for you. And then in terms of process, I think Pheck Hoon talked about knowing where your child's strengths are, making a decision based on that, not blindly looking at a pathway that you feel suits your own expectation for your child, or you think is the best for your child. Try to see it from their perspective, listen to their perspective, understand their strengths. So I thank the panelists so much. I think so much rich perspectives shared, and I hope our parents found it useful. And I thank all of you. I think I've extended time, but I hope you found it useful as well. And remember, I mean, your role as a parent in supporting your child's decision making is very important. Managing your own expectations, understanding their talents, their strengths is also important, helping you make the decision. There are a lot of resources available. I think we've put that in the comment section. You can access to understand the pathways available, have a conversation with your child, have conversation with the school, the teachers, even reaching out to the ECG counselors. There's a lot of support available, and from there, continue a conversation with your child. And I think earlier Nick talked about how do you define success for our children. And tomorrow we have a Facebook live session done by our campus, which is a community and parents in support of schools. It's an advisory group, and they're running this Facebook live session, Future Beyond Grades, tomorrow from 8 to 9 p.m. And we are hearing from two individuals who are leaders in their industry, but they have also not let their grades define their careers or their pathways in life. And I think it'll be useful to listen to those perspectives so that you can redefine success or broaden the definition of success for yourself as well as for your kids. With that, it brings me to thank our panelists and thank everyone for joining us for today's session. Have a good evening ahead. Thank you.